If I'm looking at it from the next 20 years, I should be replaceable.
Small teams with a large impact.
I think you have to burn your fingers to realize this. No amount of education that I give is going to help. That it's not really about the number of people, but it's about the quality of people.
The magic in what we do is the execution prowess.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Uneven podcast. We love to talk shop, uncover the beauty of failures, and play a few games. Today, we have with us Ali and Mac, the CEO and CTO of Wednesday.is. Ali has been a serial entrepreneur already, and Mac has been the rounds as a technical marvel. And by the way, they also have another company apart from Wednesday, believe it or not, called Tuesday. So let us start with a quick little game to understand more about Wednesday.
So we're going to play the Twitter pitch challenge. And luckily, since you all are two people and you all have two companies, we're going to do this with one company each. So basically, let me explain the challenge. Right? Twitter is known for its 280 character limit on every tweet, which sometimes makes it a little difficult to convey your thoughts. It takes about 20 seconds to speak 280 characters. And so you need to explain to us Wednesday and Tuesday in 20 seconds, but you also need to use one emoji and a hashtag. So, you know what, Ali, since you're on mute, Mac, you're going to kick us off. Do you pick Wednesday or Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. All right. So I'm going to start your timer. You have 20 seconds. Remember, one emoji and one hashtag as well. The time starts.
Scaling emoji, your partner when you want to hashtag scale to 1,000,000 plus.
Wow. That's, I think, the fastest we've ever had. That's under 10 seconds. Not bad. So you said skilling emoji.
Scaling, like the one with the graph.
Ah, interesting. Interesting. Cool. Not bad. Ali, you've got a very tough time to beat. And you handed Tuesday. So your time starts now.
Unclogging execution cycles with marketing teams. And then the emoji would be, the unclog emoji or whatever, the sync emoji or something like that. And, hashtag would be marketing speed.
Marketing speed.
Yeah, like velocity, like high speed. And you know what? I have another one for Wednesday because I didn't really think that Mac would say about the scale bit because I think that's an interesting take. But I would say I think what we like to do is build complex software systems. And scale could be one sort of way of thinking about it. But the way that I always thought about it is like Wednesday likes to build complex software that solves tough problems. And we also like to teach people how because we care.
Love that. So we've got 3 tweets out of 4 so far.
Amazing. I think it's interesting how different the perspective is, right? Like depending on what your role is in the company. And something interesting that we saw was that we didn't see like the title of co-founder in any of your like LinkedIn profiles or anything. So neither of y'all call yourself co-founders of either Tuesday or Wednesday. So what's the reasoning behind that, given that some people take that quite seriously?
Again, I have not really thought about this so much, but I'm going to take this. So I think, one of the things that has been interesting about the way that we do things is, and I think this has been just the way that we've run the company is, to have a team, or if you have a team that can execute quickly, it's very important that everyone understands their role. So, for example, if I play my role very well, naturally the other person would do the same. And you don't really need micromanagement or someone asking you whether you've done something or not. And I think it naturally also breeds a sense of trust. So I try to model that. Like, I don't get involved in delivery at all. I don't get involved in tech at all, even though I have a engineering background. Um, and it's just the way that we've been right from the beginning, I think, so, and I think that because we model it, like, I think everybody does the same. They understand their role very well, which is why we try and get outcomes that are the way that they are. But to answer your question, there was a long time at which, if you went to our website, any one of our websites, there was no mention of Mac or me at all. We didn't even exist, unless you would actually go on Twitter and look us up. And again, the idea over there was the work should sort of speak for itself, right? So you play your role and the outcome will sort of speak for itself. In fact, like, my team told me to add my picture on the website. I don't know if it helps at all, but yeah, that was just done like last year. So let's see. Hopefully, it helps.
Mark, do you think similarly in terms of like the titles?
Yeah, I think I completely agree with Ali. I think, and like on top of that, I think one of the reasons why we, in fact, I don't think we even thought about this before this conversation was, uh, like Ali said, we were so focused on getting those outcomes that it didn't really matter the title, it was just the role we were playing towards those outcomes. So pretty much the same answer, to be honest.
Interesting. And so y'all mentioned the distinction between like your company and your brand attached to it. So was there any like was the intention behind that? Was it like, oh, let me not like let the company not be associated just with me? Because I, like you said, your team encouraged you to put up your pictures over the last year. So over the last, like, I would say 5 years, with the whole social media rising, a lot of people associate their founders with the brand, and that brand is their company. And I think y'all have done the opposite. So was there intention behind that, or it's just the kind of people that y'all are?
I think it's both. It was definitely intentional, and again, it's just who we are. But yeah, I think we want to create a sort of business. We're looking at it for the next 20 years. And if I'm looking at it from the next 20 years, I should be replaceable. Like, I don't want to get customers because, they want to work with Ali, or Mac. They should want to work with Wednesday because Wednesday is a system that produces results, or even anybody at Wednesday, you know. And that's how I think about it, is that, Wednesday is a framework, that, with the same set of people, you could probably get an exponentially high outcome. And it's that framework that we're trying to perfect.
And that's sort of where we get our tagline from as well, right? Small teams with a large impact, because everybody's working towards that goal and the systems are in place, so execution is friction free, like a well-oiled machine, and that's what we strive for.
And that's not generally true for this space, right? Like, for example, most people would try and win over clients by saying, "Oh, we have a 40-person team, and 20 will be dedicated to your project, etc., etc." And to be honest, from what I've seen, as a from the business side, I think a lot of businesses kind of get wowed by that, like, "Oh, wow, 100% team," and stuff like that. So how have you all been able to change that messaging to say that, listen, you don't need a 20, 30, 40-person team. You need four solid people. Has that been a point of friction with clients, or do you think clients are quite accepting and understanding that that works better, the smaller team works better?
I think you have to burn your fingers to realize this. No amount of education that I give is going to help. Of course, we do it. I mean, we do post on our social media and talk about this, but you have to burn your fingers. So, I mean, let's take a case in point, right? So, for example, if you look at how things are happening in the Silicon Valley, they sort of have a lot of emphasis on getting the team right, and they try and maintain a lean team, etc. And the reason for that is they've just been doing it far too, and they've just been doing it for a very long time. They've burned their fingers. A lot of startups have been created over there. Many people have, done it 2, 3, 4 times. That's not necessarily true for India. We've probably seen digitization of a lot of things around us happen within the last 7 to 8 years. But I do think that that realization is setting in now. Once you burn your fingers and you realize that it's not really about the number of people, but if it's about the quality of people, then it just becomes easier. So I think we've sort of got the wind in our favor now, and it's also largely a function of competition, Anuj. So you take any segment right now in India, right? You will have a competitor there, okay, which was not necessarily true before. And I'm talking about segments that are really well defined and that have giants in there. So let's consider retail. There is a competitor to Gillette, Bombay Shaving Company. There is a competitor in every single space. And when you ask yourself why, like why does everybody know Bombay Shaving Company? Why does everybody know of a Neo Bank, right? um, are they doing something new? There are two aspects to it, right? One is the strategic aspect, which is the thinking side of things, and the other side is the execution. The secret sauce is always that they were able to execute it faster and better, you know and that is making the well established players also realize that the secret lies in the execution, because they also have very good strategic thinkers. They're just not able to do it fast enough. That's the gap that we see.
Fair, interesting. And so now tell me this: you obviously we spoke about there being Wednesday and being Tuesday. Let's start off for the benefit of our audience. In very simplistic terms, what's the difference between Wednesday and Tuesday?
Sure. So Wednesday is a software design and development company. What we do is we work with Series A startups and above, and we help them build their product. We're working in three areas over there. One is application development and modernization. The second is data engineering, and the third one is generative and applied AI. Talk about each of these segments. So, your application modernization would be, the web and mobile applications that you use, which would have design and engineering pieces to it. The data engineering piece is very interesting because what we do is we work with companies that have large sets of data that are spread across multiple applications. So if you consider a bank, and unstructured, correct. So if you consider a bank, they have multiple products. They would have a product for mobile banking, net banking, card products, loan products, and each of this data is sort of siloed in a particular database. So you want to build data pipelines that combine all of it, you know um, and sort of build intelligence on top of it, which is the Gen AI piece that we use. So these are the three areas that we work in over there. But we're only working with companies that have product market fit and have like tough engineering problems to solve. So you need a lot of specialization to help them move ahead. Um, Tuesday, on the other hand, works with primarily early stage companies. And there we work with companies, their marketing, and I would say the CMO is who we target. And the problems are similar. So when you talk to any CMO of any company, he has a very good idea about what his business is, who his customer is, and what he needs to do to reach that customer. But the problem is that there is a gap between his strategy and the time that it actually goes to market and he's able to implement that. That's the gap that we're trying to fill. Now, how are we trying to fill that? We've started with just website and e-commerce builds with Webflow. But then there are a lot of other things that they need help with. They need help with video creation, graphics, other things. Which is, if you talk to any CMO, he'll tell you that, from the time that I have an idea to the time that I actually go live, it's like 8 to 10 weeks, which is insane. Like it should be very, very small. And we're trying to solve that. Like we're trying to shorten that through a skilled team that understands what you want and still does it at a very, good quality. So very different ICP, very different customer, very different problems also. One is like heavy engineering, product design. One is visual design and, customer centric, conversion centric.
The reason why we're good at running both, I guess, is because the ethos of both is the same. We come in and we have a extremely good execution philosophy, and we implement very well, and in both cases we're implementing different things. So in the Tuesday business, we're helping CMOs with their GTM for their experiments, and in the Wednesday side of things, we are helping people iterate faster, more with more stability, for handling more scale with more resilience. But the magic in what we do is the execution prowess.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. So then, Mac, how is the technical challenge different with Tuesday? Is it easier to handle compared to what you have with Wednesday?
The kind of problems that we are solving in both of them are slightly different. So on the Tuesday side of things, we're using a lot of no-code tools like Webflow. We're building on top of pre-existing fundamental blocks. On the Wednesday side of things, there are more custom application use cases. After you hit a certain amount of scale, you've got an extremely diverse set of customers. Out of the box solutions stop working for you or have limitations when you implement them, and that's where the expertise of Wednesday comes into the picture, and where we can sort of execute to cater to those differences and that custom requirement. So there are different problems in both, or a different set of solutions that we are gunning after in both. On the Tuesday side of things, very important to be able to roll out faster, to be able to understand what to buy rather than try to build from scratch, because you're fixated on outcome, and very different problems on the Wednesday side as well.
Just out of curiosity, why the name Tuesday and Wednesday? It doesn't necessarily have any correlation to what y'all do. So, what was the attraction?
You
So
know what? This is the third time today somebody has asked me this question. So, and I'm gonna add a section on our website that says
why
why
Wednesday?
Wednesday. You know,
Yeah, no. So Wednesday is another name for Odin, who's the god of wisdom in Norse mythology, and essentially that's what Ali and me thought of. We wanted to create a team. So Odin lost his eye in the search of knowledge, and that's what fascinated us the most. We wanted our search and quest for knowledge and expertise to be as profound as Odin's, and the domain was cheap.
That's okay. That was much deeper than I thought the reasoning was, but that's incredible. Yeah. No, I think even like it helps with like a conversation starter, right? Like you said, three people have asked you this same question today, so it's like okay, curiosity builds us to like what's the reason behind that.
yeah.
So Ali and me have an
We,
internal joke whenever like a potential customer asks us why Wednesday, we are like, chalo sign karega. He's gonna sign.
I should make it a drinking game. It's like every time someone asks you, that's a shot added to your Friday drink.
Cool. So, Ali, right, from a business perspective, why
Mhm.
was Tuesday born? One, and have you kind of diversified your business model as compared to Wednesday with Tuesday?
Yeah. So it's a long story. So Tuesday started 2 years ago, because we were saying no to a lot of people who were coming to Wednesday for services. And the reason why we were saying no to them was because they didn't have budgets for custom software development. And that was sort of the rise of the no code, low code tools, right? So there were all these tools that were becoming famous and popular. So we said, okay, let's not say no to all of these guys. So Tuesday initially was positioned as a no and low code agency. So we said, you come to us with an idea, we'll help you build it using tools like Webflow, Bubble, and we had some tools that we were using in the back end as well. We said we'll help you build it. And if you find product market fit and if you find paying customers, and we'll also tell you the what is not possible using these tools. But once you have some product market fit, then you could transition to Wednesday services. It might make more sense for you to build something custom then. And we went to market with it. We also spoke to a lot of people who were looking for services like that. But we realized that there wasn't really something here that could scale up, right? Because most of the people that we were talking to had ideas, their budgets were like ridiculously small, it wasn't worth it. And what was born out of it, as we spoke to people, was we wanted to build the whole product, like a web app and things like that using no code tools. But everyone ended up just building a website using Webflow. So the only tool that got traction out of the suite that we were using was Webflow. So we sort of pivoted about 7, 8 months ago, where we said, let's offer only Webflow design and development services. And we were a registered Webflow partner. We were, one of the first people in India to get listed on their website as a registered partner. So we were early adopters over there, and that that picked up. And we got a couple of signups working with customers in the US, and again, not intentional. And we started talking to them and learning about the problems that they face. And we learned this recurring thing that the reason why they were looking for help with Webflow was because the chief marketing officer that was hired for that particular company, be it a SaaS company or a small MSME, was because his goal was to grow the business, was to probably get more signups, more subscriptions, more calls, etc. And the only way he or she could do that was if he had the ability to experiment. And how does he experiment? He experiments by doing some performance marketing, creating some landing pages, doing events and creating landing pages to collect leads. And all of that required some of the other development on Webflow. So we said, let's narrow down the target audience to only be marketing teams and marketing leaders who have a problem with execution cycles being too long. And again, further conversations there led to the birth of the current business model that we have, which is like a pay-as-you-go subscription model. So the way that we change the business is, if you go to any services company's website, pricing is sort of hidden, right? It's like contact us and we'll get back to you. They do a call. Our pricing is transparent. We have a monthly fee that you pay us. You sign up anytime. You can stop anytime. You have a dedicated relationship manager. We'll add you to Slack. You have direct communication with them. But we have certain guarantees, right? So our guarantees are that we'll get started within 1 or 2 days. So you have a marketing problem, you want to build landing pages, come to our website, sign up. 2 days we'll get started. Other guarantees like we'll do builds in like 3 or 4 days. You have a design ready, 3, 4 days we'll have it launched, right? And that sort of stuck with people, right? Where they said that what I'm looking for is speed, so I also want speed in the sign up process with an agency. I don't want a long sales process, etc. And the sales cycle is very different for Tuesday compared to Wednesday, where Wednesday requires a very one-on-one touch. Tuesday doesn't. Tuesday, you're talking to people who are looking for execution ability. And they're also looking for an easy exit, saying that, okay, like now I'm done in a month, like, can I stop? So we offer that option. It's like a SaaS subscription that you buy for $20, $30. It's very similar to that. And we created a whole services offering around that. And that has worked.
That's very interesting. And then I think, so obviously your business, as you said, the business cycle, the speed cycle is all very different as compared to the two. And Tuesday, I presume, would work on a more mass kind of effect as compared to Wednesday. Um, what is so? Let's come back to the two of you, right? As the not the co-founders, but as the CEO and CTO. Um, y'all have worked beyond the adding a picture to the website on your personal brand, right? So Ali, you've got the Wednesday show, Mac, you've got the lead reads. Why did y'all respectively start the podcast and the newsletter?
For me, LeadReads was about creating a community where we can share the knowledge that we have. What we've seen across time is that there are obviously a few monumental changes that you can make and that would produce radical results, but more often than not, it's the small things that you do on a consistent and regular basis that will cause radical change. And we wanted to be able to create a community where sharing of these ideas is much easier and is done systematically, which is why the name is well just lead reads. So quick 5 minute read every other week and having better delivery, having your team do better was the ethos for why we started. Lead reads is just giving back.
The business idea for these things is the sales cycle for a Wednesday is fairly long. you know so like a Tuesday doesn't really require a long sales cycle. You have a problem, you'll Google us. There's some performance marketing, you'll find us. If you have a need, you'll probably sign up. But Wednesday has a fairly long sales cycle. Okay, so let's try and understand why. So if you look at a series A company and above, right, the leaders over there are tasked with something that is very, very important. Okay, so for example, let's say you're working with a unicorn company and you are a VP of engineering over there. You are probably tasked with executing a product roadmap that will do justice to the money that they have raised. That means you have to do it well. The stakes are high. You can't go wrong, right? It's not a 0 to 1 journey. Now, if you are a leader and you are tasked with doing that, you have to have a lot of confidence in a partner that you choose. And the only way you get confidence is, number one, if you're friends with that person. And number two, that person also has a lot of similarities in the way that they think about building software. So, for example, when the stakes are high, when you're building for a bank, catering to 50 lakh customers, for example, every decision you make is going to be scrutinized by the board. So you need to trust the vendor that you are going to get on board. So he has to think the same. He has to have, a framework ready for solving problems at scale. He has to have a good understanding about system architecture. He has to have a good understanding about the problems that you will face when you reach, let's say, 100 lakhs or whatever, right? Because the board is going to ask you. So lead reads is a way for us to put that framework thinking in front of these leaders. And the podcast is a way for me to make friends with the business leaders. So when they have problems, they have a one-on-one relation with us and they trust us because we think the same. So getting that sign up is easy. Like Wednesday has a longer sales cycle, right? We're talking about like 3 to 6 months to get one sign up.
How has your journey been having your own podcast? Do you enjoy it?
Very interesting. I love it. I think content creation is very, very interesting as a, you know, um, it is definitely a moat. Owning distribution is very, very essential. It's a very, very good icebreaker. People talk to you because it is something that they get for free, and why wouldn't they? So for me, it's been very, very interesting. I was actually a writer before, so I've actually written 2 books, um, which is a long time ago. Okay, so like about 8 9 years ago, I wrote 2 books on software development only. So I knew the power of content. So even today, if you search for my full name on Amazon, you'll find me there. So I knew that content, it's going to stand the test of time. So podcasting has definitely helped. It's helped us get in front of the right people. It's helped us open a lot of doors. We've got a lot of introductions, referrals through there. And I think this strategy will play out even further, right? Where you, if you're able to really niche out and create a community or an audience, it could be very interesting. I mean, I absolutely love it. They open up and they talk to you about all your problems because you have nothing to gain out of it apart from just giving them a stage. So I think it's very exciting, and in fact, I think I spend most of my time doing that now. So I'm talking
We
to
now have a
founders.
podcast room as well.
Oh, nice.
We have a podcast room in the office. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a full-fledged studio. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. If people are in Pune, then we actually tell them to come here. We spend the whole day with them. So I think it's a very interesting avenue.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, having a studio of our own is definitely a dream. But
What about you guys? Like you also run this podcast, and you've been doing it much more than me. Like, what have been your learnings?
um, I think definitely meeting people and like being able to ask to have a conversation where they're willing to give their time to like share what they've done. I think that's really difficult to get otherwise. Like if I just randomly message someone being like, hey, can I have a 1 hour conversation with you? The chances of them saying no is much higher. Whereas if I go like, even like our podcast is not like, it's just started, it's relatively new. We haven't had that many people on, but we've had so many incredible people saying yes to us. And I think 90% of them would have said no if I just messaged. So I think like having that kind of conversation with someone and learning about their journey and like how they've reached where they've reached, or like just like even like tidbits of like from their like normal life, like has really impacted like thinking overall. So yeah, like I personally definitely enjoyed, and like you said, like content is definitely for the long run. But I think, like, more than anything, just having the ability to have that conversation is, at least in this stage of where we are at, the key of doing this.
Yeah, but how are you thinking about like the flywheel? Like, are you seeing a flywheel turn around in terms of back and forth?
So I think, okay, let me put it this way. One, we've had both extremes of people accepting and
Yeah.
rejecting to be on the podcast, right? Like, I'd say, of course, a lot of people are in the haven't responded to us area, but we've seen both the other extremes as well. I think for us, what the podcast means is it's one, a way to have fun, as you'll
Yeah.
see once we go to the next few segments. Um, and all of our guests so far have appreciated the format a lot because everyone's been on a podcast slash done a podcast, especially now, right, in the last year or two. And like what we've got being different in that segment is something that we hold very close to our heart. It's not easy to find something different in such a heavily populated area. So I think because of that, one, we've got something that's fun and it gives us a creative outlet. The second part of it is discipline. It really disciplines you when you have to release an episode every week. So we release an episode every week. We release a reel every day. Our first reel of the week, and and then on Mondays we do stories. On Tuesdays we do stories, and then on Fridays we do stories. And all of this is managed just between the two of us. So, and Janvi is transitioning from a job, but she was in a full time job the entire time we were doing this, and I'm also working full time. So it's kind of builds in a discipline that we, after what I think 26 episodes, have still stuck to Sunday 4:30 p.m. IST. Is like it's
A
a good
ritual.
feeling able to do that. 100%. And going back to what you said about people want to hear from people that have made it, um, what we realized is, right, for example, if I'm trying to figure out, I don't know, how to build a car company, right? I'm, of course, I'm going to go research Elon Musk, but there's only so much I can get by researching him because he is miles beyond anything I could do in the next 5 years, right? But if there's someone who's like 2 years into it, or even if you take like Lucid Air, for example, right, which is a few years into it, but not as much as Tesla is, I would rather learn from them because they're like, 10 steps ahead of me instead of 100. And that's the kind of curation that we
Yeah.
focused on for the podcast. Is you every now and then you need to have a few hard hitting names just for like to gain popularity or and like get new eyes. But I think the real learning comes from people who are just a few steps ahead of you, and you can just pick up on, like, for example, you might listen to an entire podcast about someone who's building out a digital marketing agency, and if you're building out, let's say, some kind of tech product, you'll get one takeaway that, okay, this person is only a few steps ahead of me, but even though he's doing digital marketing, the way in which he created this part of his company culture, that's something I want to implement today. So even the cross pollination is kind of quite interesting.
And definitely what we focus on as well, like it's a couple of people ahead, but also that it's not necessarily just for that industry. Like we're not catering to everyone that's in this industry should only listen to this episode. It's more about like the format that we have, and also um just like general insights, because a lot of it is like technical knowledge is easy to find online. Like you can Google something and it can tell you a lot about that industry. But I think a lot of so-called success, or like so-called growth, comes from like the kind of person you are and like the discipline or um your thought process and things like that. So we're trying to like show people what that is of all these entrepreneurs. Like what are they doing behind the scenes outside of just the knowledge that every like that is easily available. Like what's something that they're doing different, and that's why they've become where they are, or like that's where they're growing and like becoming bigger. So like it's more about, yeah, it's not like industry specific, but more about the person, and like, oh, do you resonate with like where they are in their journey, or what do they do? Is there something different in terms of the culture they're trying to build? Like I think something really interesting that you said early on was you want to be replaceable, and so you want everyone in your company to be replaceable. And I think that can be like translated into any industry, any company, anything. But the thought behind that was like, okay, you want something from your company that stays long term, and it's that framework that you're trying to like translate. But like that doesn't mean that I need to start something in the product technical space. Like it is very like um easy to like flow and translate into different things. But like, yeah, that's like the kind of thing that we want to like share and get other people to take inspiration from.
Yeah, that makes sense. I always tell the teams here and the customers that we work with, don't look at the best. They've been doing it for far too long. So I think this makes perfect sense. We do the same. There's no point looking at an Infosys for us. We'd rather look at a company that's slightly bigger and see what difference they're making and how.
I didn't know you were a writer. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I wrote books on like iOS development when iOS was at iOS 3.0. So I've been building with iOS from from iOS 3.0. So
That's
yeah.
insane. That's crazy. Interesting. And while you stop,
So the way it started was I just wanted to write, I just wanted to write what I knew because at that time in India, there weren't a lot of people building iOS apps in the first place. So I started writing and I found this guy online. His name was Ray Vanderlick. He was in the US and he was also doing the same. And I wrote a email to him saying, I love your tutorials. Do you mind if I write one for you? And he said, sure. And I wrote a tutorial which went on his website, and I was one of the first 5 writers over there. And that website, even today, he's turned it into a massive tech company. but they some of those tutorials ended up having over 7 million views in a month. So everybody wanted to learn how to build iOS apps. So he slowly turned it into a business. He had a large number of users. So we said that every year we would write books. So I was one of the initial writers. So I used to write 3, 4 chapters in each book. So that's how that started. But then he sort of completely pivoted. So today, if you go to his website, it's like an edtech platform. You can buy courses, you can buy books. There are videos. There are a lot of things. He has more than 100 people that he employs right now, but
Wow.
still mobile focused. Yeah, but I was one of the early people there. I am no longer associated with them, but it was an interesting journey. I got to
Yeah,
learn a
right.
lot.
And
Yeah.
I was gonna add over there that he actually massively underplayed it by just saying writer. So he used to write iOS books, and at that point, if you ever asked an iOS developer, "What do you do when you're stuck?" they would say, "I would read the Revandelic book," and that was written by Ali. Right, so he
Wow.
he
That's
he's massively underplaying it when he says that, oh, I was a writer, but no, he was the writer. So there's like a huge difference. And even up to very recently, I think we were traveling somewhere, and there was somebody who was stuck in like a certain part of their iOS journey, and this person that reached out to Ali, I think, already had a good number of users for his app. It was a scaling issue, and he was like, the only source that I could find was a reference in your book. Can you help me fix this?
Wow.
Do you remember what that was?
Yeah, he was building a game. So I used to also build games before. So I wrote a chapter on how to build multiplayer support in an iOS game. So he was facing problems with that. But yeah, this was like during the gold rush, in the App Store. Like every company wanted to build an iOS app, right? And everyone wanted to build an Android app. And there was hardly any material available. Like documentation, apart from what you could see on Apple, was like non-existent. And there were no tutorial form like structures, right? It was very like developer documentation. You got to figure it out. So it worked at that time. I think now there are a lot of other options. There are YouTube channels and all dedicated to it. But I think it did well at that time.
super cool. Okay, so let's go on to the next segment. Basically, it's a game called Two Lies, One Truth, and whether it's challenges or your biggest achievements, the idea is each of you is going to give us three statements, amongst which one is the truth, an actual truth of either an achievement or a challenge that happened, and the other two are false. We have to try and guess which is the correct one.
Okay, I think I can go. So among the challenges that we face, so we're a people business, right? So our challenges all revolve around that. So here are three statements. So number one, letting go of people is easy. Sorry, yeah, is easy. Uh, Retaining people is tough. Upskilling people is easy.
I know that I think I'm like 95% sure what the truth is.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with upskilling people is easy.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go
Oh,
with
you said upskilling people is easy. Okay. Anyway, go ahead.
the truth is retaining people is tough.
Oh, sorry. What am I saying? That's what I meant. Retaining people is tough. Sorry, upskilling people is obviously not easy.
Yeah. So that's correct. So I think the challenges that we face is um, change is very difficult to manage for anybody, right? And that's where I keep talking about the framework of Wednesday has to come in, where it's very difficult for a person who is doing software development to change what they're doing. And it's not because um, it's the things that are around them have changed. You don't need those technologies anymore. Technologies change too fast, you know. So I think that's the one that's the most tough for us, and that's the statement that you got correct. The other ones, I think, letting go of people, always a difficult choice. I think no matter where you are, it's an extremely, extremely difficult thing to do. Retaining again is an extremely difficult thing to do. But the one I think that's the most toughest is the change.
Ali, when people generally, like if they're leaving Wednesday, what is the next step for them? Where do they go?
Yeah, we've had few cases where people have started other companies. We have had people start their entrepreneurial journey after Wednesday, which is a phenomenal win for us. We always encourage people to do that. We've had a few cases like that. We've had other cases where people have just um, gone on to take on roles which probably pay higher, or something like that. But all have been in prominent companies that are known for engineering culture. And again, I think that's just something that we're proud of. That after they finish working with us, they get opportunities like that, which is probably something that we're doing right. But I think that's what I've largely seen in terms of the people who have left. Yeah. Have you? What about you guys? Like you, Anuj, you must have seen that as well, right? Like what have you seen happen?
So we've seen people not necessarily leave to start their own companies, but maybe also for like to freelance because that's the kind of people we have, the talent we have. And yes, a few entrepreneurs, but many times it's because they've had a shift in career. So the way that we function as an office, and this is something that we love about, like when someone leaves us, if it's for a shift in the career, we love that because we give people kind of experience in different things. So we've got, of course, their core role that they've been hired for. We always ask them to choose a secondary role as well. Like what is something that's kind of close to your role, but you want experience in, and then either like anyone from the senior management team is allotted to that person's secondary role to give them that experience, whether it's as training or like actual work, etc. So we just last year we had a customer care executive for the bed linen brand who like was given certain amount of digital marketing tasks here and there, and then she finally got a job as a digital marketer in another company, and she was also given a like double salary because it's a big shift in her career, and that for us was like we were very happy to make that happen. Although we really liked her as a customer care executive, she was very good at it, but you know if that kind of change for us is the best because that is something that we try to facilitate directly.
And you must have also had cases where you had to let go. Like how do you typically manage that?
What? Okay, I'll tell you the way I try to manage it from the beginning. Right, letting go is not a split-second decision. Right, unless it's like a really bad situation, it's usually, let's say, incompetence or laziness that is built up over a few months, or like that you've noticed over a few months, or it could be
Yeah.
behavior with the team, whatever, multiple reasons that play out over time. So we start capturing it to the person almost the moment we see the trend. So, for
Okay.
example, like if I notice, okay, this person, has not been delivering on time for like the last few weeks, I make sure I tell them that I've noticed you've not been blah blah blah, and then when you do that over 3 to 4 months, and let's say at one point you said, okay, not worth it anymore, I need to figure this out, and you call them in and say, let's talk, they automatically know what you're going to say, and if you start recognizing the trend soon enough, one, either they fix it, which is what happens most of the time, or two, they kind of know, and it makes the shock lesser, it makes the conversation easier, and yeah, just manages a lot better.
So, number one, we radically changed the way software is written just by employing process. We've deployed software that's run in every continent except Antarctica, and we've overturned an entire industry with the smallest change ever.
Damn, that's a very tough one.
I'm gonna go with the.
That's why I took my time.
I'm gonna go with the truth being the second one. You'll have code in every continent other than Antarctica.
Okay, for the sake of difference, I'm going to go with the third one, that y'all have worked on an entire industry with the smallest change ever.
I think it's number two, right? So we've deployed software that's run in every continent except Antarctica. But there's another like small caveat to it is that there's a endeavor where they've stored all kinds of open source software on Antarctica, and a lot of the folks at Wednesday actually have their code stored over there. So we all got like a badge, etc., because it's happened. So we don't have, but at least I don't know if code that we've written is actively being used in Antarctica. But every other continent, yes, 100%. We've
Insane.
written software that's touched lives.
That's
That's a very
insane. But yeah, cool. We can move on to our next segment and let's play red flags. We're going to give you three hypothetical situations composed of two things that are going great and one that is not so great, which is a red flag. We've adapted these situations and you have to pick which one of the three situations you would rather be in and tell us why. So the first situation is when Wednesday has 100 simultaneous projects going on. Your turnover has increased by 250% compared to the year before, but you're actually going to turn a loss this year. That's situation one. Situation two, Tuesday's Webflow marketplace is generating strong continuous income. You have more than 30 clients on the subscription for Tuesday. Wednesday has not had a strong project in over 6 months. Situation three, both companies have got many foreign clients with high margin. Your team has grown to over 300 people, but unfortunately, one of you has to leave the company. So here are your three situations, and you need to choose which one you would rather be in.
I would be in situation two. So situation three is out of the picture for me. I think both of us are looking at it long term. I don't want to do it alone. um, so
And
that's
I'll
out of
tell
the
you why
picture.
situation one is not ideal for us, because I was thinking situation two as well. And I know Ali's going to say the same thing. The worst thing that can happen to your business is not have money. Every other problem is fixable, but not having money is not fixable. Was that what you were going to say, Ali, as well?
Yeah, I mean, the way we think about business is we think about it as being something that's sustainable. So, to probably be in that situation, I've done something that is not, you know, so I would not do that. And yeah, I think every other problem can be solved. But if you're in that situation, it's very tough to get out, you know. And so, like, I've been there, right? In the previous company, I have been there. Uh, but and I don't want to be there again. So I would pick situation two, um, because you can still get out of it. You know, it's both companies have a very strong need. You just focus on Wednesday more. There are enough companies out there that are struggling to get their digital product right. Um, so it's a solvable problem. But third one is too lonely, and first one just says that I've not been a good leader. So I would say situation two.
No, yeah. It's interesting how both of y'all chose the same situation in this case, and that means it also shows like how aligned y'all are, right? Like in terms of what you want from the company and what you want from your role at the company as well.
Point of this is to kind of see that what trade-off would you pick, because we have actually, I can't remember if we've had this or not. We have had non-monetary led um, outcomes to this before, like people choosing an option which is not the best in terms of money. Um, so it's just, I think the main thing with y'all is that y'all are a service based company, so not having money is kind of like impossible, right? Because yeah, you need to keep churning it out. But fair enough. Let's move on to our final game. Very self explanatory, very quick. We're going to play the rapid fire. And I am going to start us off now. So, Ali, how many days of leave have you taken in the last year?
Zero.
Mac, how about you?
I took zero. Let's go with that. Since we're recording. But I'll WhatsApp you the actual number
Okay,
for
Mac,
both Ali and me.
Mac, what has been your proudest moment with Wednesday?
It going on autopilot. We don't need to be involved in delivery anymore,
Very
which is why I
interesting.
can do like lead reads and Ali can do the podcast.
Ali, what has been your proudest moment with Tuesday?
Finding market fit, I think.
And then what has been the one time you felt like you let Wednesday down?
Wow. I feel like when people ask me questions regarding purpose, I feel like I've let the company down.
Very interesting. Mac, one time you felt like you let Tuesday down.
Let me answer this from a more general perspective. In line with what a question that you asked earlier, right? Like, what do people do after they move on from Wednesday? I think every time somebody makes a decision to move on, I feel like we've let them know. We're always very happy for the new heights that they reach, but at some point you want to sort of have had the culture where we could provide enough opportunities for ample growth, even if that meant intrapreneurship. But yeah, that's time where I feel like perhaps I could have done something more.
Fair enough. Mac, what's a product you wish Wednesday made?
ChatGPT.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Ali, what was your biggest sacrifice to make Wednesday possible?
Oh,
Oh, wow, we're going deep now. Sacrifice. Um, I don't know. I think it's like I think time.
time.
A lot of time has gone into building it. I would say time.
Fair enough. Ali, if you had to name Wednesday something else, what would it be?
Oh, I wouldn't always name it Wednesday. I think, yeah, I think the one thing that we got right was the name, like everything else we screwed up. But yeah, I think the name I wouldn't change.
Awesome. Okay, now both of you have to answer these next three questions together. They're very simple questions. Okay, I'm going to say three, two, one. I'm going to say the question. I'm going to say the question and then three, two, one, and you have to answer. Wednesday or Tuesday? Three, two, one.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay, books or podcasts? Three, two, one.
Books.
Books.
Are you a morning person or a night owl? Three, two, one.
Night owl.
Morning. Mhm.
At least there's one people.
That's only because we do shifts, man. He takes the morning shifts, I take the night shift.
That concludes the rapid fire segment. So we're almost at the end of the conversation. Before we let you go, we ask every guest to ask our next guest a question. So we're
Hmm.
gonna ask you the question from our previous guest, and then each of you gets to ask our next guest a question. So the question to both of you is,
Why is it that you are here on this podcast?
Um, why am I here on this podcast? I am here to learn from you guys on how you are doing your podcast, and I'm also here to build some awareness about what we do.
I think for me it's awareness more than anything. which is why I was very emphatic that we also handle unstructured data, Ali. Don't forget that. My next 3 weeks ka marketing pitch is about that.
Thank you so much both for giving us your time and coming on to the podcast. It was an absolutely lovely conversation, and we hope you enjoyed the format and had fun with it.
I had a lot of
Yeah.
fun. I learned a lot from you guys in terms of how you're doing it. It's the first time I'm actually doing like a group podcast, but I think this format is really interesting. So I love it. Love what you guys are doing.